So this is the Pegasus Plus, and at the moment this is my favorite shoe. But before we're gonna go into the review, I want to say something real quick before that. So I was finishing my thoughts about the Pegasus Plus, and I kind of realized how close we are to the new release of the Pegasus Plus 2. And then I started to think, what could they change in this shoe to make it a better shoe in the next generation? And I kind of came to the conclusion, if they really change anything about this shoe, I don't think it's gonna be for the better for what this shoe is about in this generation. And my point that I'm trying to make really is, these days when shoes get a new release, it's all about a softer, taller, more responsive feel. But I feel like in a shoe like this, that is far from the point. And that's far from a point from a daily trainer or up-tempo shoe. So again, I feel like we've gone to a point where I feel like shoes have kind of became what they should be. The daily trainers really are at the max of their performance, and they really shouldn't get any faster or more comfortable, because otherwise a daily trainer is going to be a recovery shoe, or a daily trainer is just going to be a tempo shoe. And that's not the point, because then we're not going to use these shoes to our advantage. And I feel like if a shoe release is about being a taller, softer, more responsive, more cushioned experience, I really would watch some reviews to see what they think about it, and whether they think it's actually a better for the purpose of that shoe. But maybe most importantly, think, did I like that shoe that I had previously? And what do I want or expect in the next generation? Maybe if you think about it, you already come to the conclusion that you have everything that you want and need. Also important, I feel like I should tell you, these are my PBs. These are my stats of how I run. Let's say my 5K, because that applies to most people. The 5K is obviously from more than a year ago. So at that time, about when I run the 5K, it's to 8:03. So I feel like I can go quite a bit quicker than that, but that was the way I ran last year. Okay, so the Pegasus Plus, it has 33 millimeters in the heel, and it has 24 in the forefoot. It has like a 9 millimeter drop, which makes this really suitable for a heel to midfoot striker. But I would definitely recommend, if you're a forefoot striker, to try out this shoe, because I've seen lots of runners that run on the forefoot that really like this shoe, and just because it's such a great shoe in my opinion. The softness of this shoe, I would call it a nice compression. You really feel the compression when you land, but I would really call it comfortable and not overly soft. Now the rocker. The rocker of the shoe is where you roll off when you land and push off again. And as you can see, like, this shoe has a very minimal rocker, which we'll go into why that's good and bad, but for now, really minimal. Also, if you see this, like, I'm not gonna do it too aggressive because my shoe is gonna be ruined then, but trust me, it's a really flexible shoe, which makes sense because the non-rocker and the lower than usual in modern day shoes makes it for a traditional kind of shoe, and not too technology with crazy stats, crazy rocker, crazy stack height, crazy softness. It really just makes sense. So now, why does a minimal rocker, a not too tall stack height, not too soft, and a flexible shoe, why is that good? Well, it makes it good for muscle training, and it makes a more speedier shoe than other daily trainers would be. But why is it bad? Well, it obviously is not so tall, so it doesn't have as good cushioning as modern day shoes, despite that it still has pretty decent cushioning. Now obviously, what does the stats and the good and the bad and everything, if you combine that, what does that really mean and how does that affect it? Well, obviously it's a natural and versatile shoe. That makes sense, right? The heel is, like I said, it's reasonably cushioned. It has like a normal amount of cushion for a daily trainer, which is good, right? If you run slow, you're gonna land a little bit more towards the heel. And when you start to pick up a pace, you're gonna run slightly more to the forefoot, depends where you kind of land naturally. If you land on the heel, you have more shock absorption and you have less energy return. And in the forefoot, it's the opposite, which makes it versatile. And now what about the rocker? Like, what does that affect? Well, not having a rocker or having a minimal rocker means that you're gonna strengthen your calves, your feet, your ankles, but also impact them more. And it will release pressure on your hips and your knees. However, that's obviously not guaranteed. Those are just studies that I've found, and that applies to most runners. Obviously doesn't guarantee that you will experience the same stuff, but that's generally how it works. Why does that actually strengthen it, right? Like, if you don't have a rocker, you land a little more flat, right? Instead of, if a rocker will be like that, you can roll off to the next step. Whilst if it's flat like this, you really land like this is the ground. You gotta first get more onto your toes and then push off to that next step, which will eventually just strengthen your foot. It will also strengthen your calf, but be aware, obviously, if you have pain or your foot or calf is stiff, maybe this isn't the perfect shoe, because obviously it will impact it more, but then these are all the good stuff about it, right? Like, this seems like the perfect shoe from daily training up until racing at this point, pretty much. But like, obviously it also has downsides. And the downside really is what the good things about this are. Because it doesn't have a rocker, it has a flexible forefoot. It means it's not the best for long runs, right? Because you don't get as much support into that next step, and your body just has to do more of the work than the shoe would be doing if you would wear a carbon-plated shoes on. But I would say I really like to do long runs with these, because obviously it strengthens my body more, but I only do that wisely when my body is fit, healthy, I don't have little pains here and there. So you really gotta watch out for that you don't make those little pains worse than they already were, because it just doesn't have as good protection as modern day shoes that you would find in like a Super Blast, a Mega Blast, like a Saucony Azura, or like all those like crazy thick foams of like 40, 45 mil, right? Those are really good in those scenarios, but again, I like to do my long runs, tempo workouts with these if I'm feeling fit and healthy. And then really onto the small stuff like upper. Honestly, I don't have a single bad thing to say about this. Like, the upper is like so stretchy, because I wear insoles, it really feels really comfortable. Like, it doesn't hurt anywhere, because with insole it elevates your foot inside the shoe a little, and that might cause for some rubbing. But in this shoe, you don't feel they're up higher in the shoe, so it stretches so well. Is it the most breathable? No, but honestly, for me personally, I don't really care if the shoe is breathable at all or not. I don't really care. If it's hot, you're gonna sweat anyway, so I don't really care too much about that. But lace is good, heel good. The heel is like, it's not crazy firm, but there's some good support with it, but not too firm. And overall, just good padding. As you can see, I don't know whether it will focus or not, but it has some good, comfortable padding. Tongue is pretty minimal on the other side, but really comfortable anyway. On the outsole, that's the grip of the shoe, that's the rubber coverage, that you don't fall or slip. Alright, so as you can see, it has coverage in the forefoot and in the heel. Now, I can say I've done like about 250 kilometers with these. I think they look pretty good. I think it holds up normally, not incredibly well like most Sauconys do, but also not terrible like On shoes do. So I'd like to clarify that when I mean terrible, I mean below average. The cloud technology in shoes like the Cloud Monster and Surfer just don't last as long as most shoes. But hear me out. The Cloud Surfer is my favorite daily trainer after the Saucony Ride 17, which is a 3-year-old shoe. And it isn't nearly as smooth as the Cloud Surfer 2 does. Personally, if I like a shoe and I think it will benefit me, I generally don't care whether it lasts for 350 kilometers or 600. I want the best equipment for the job, regardless of our expectations and made up numbers about durability that we call good and bad. And obviously, you can see it really well. In the forefoot, they leave it exposed for a couple of reasons. For the flexibility part, because if you land and you push off, if there's rubber, it will make it flex less. So more flexible. Also, when you land, you sink into it more, and you're gonna feel the softness of it, which enhances the experience a little bit, which I really like. You can see that the midsole right here, obviously it has suffered a little more, but honestly that's just fine. It'll maybe take away like 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 kilometers, and also a little bit of weight, maybe they'll take off, I don't know, 10 grams. But overall, just great design, well thought through, great shoe. And now onto the whens and whys. Like, why do I wear this shoe? Makes sense. Like I said, I like to use this shoe if I want to activate my body more, if I want to strengthen it more. I'm going to make natural movement, I'm going to make that a little more complicated. I'm going to call that proprioception. Now that means the body's ability to locate and understand where it is into the next step and the movement that you're doing while running. For example, right? How much flexion I'm putting on my foot, whether I'm already tensing on my foot for the landing, how far in front that I'm putting my feet compared to my knee, or how high I'm lifting my leg when I'm striding to the next step. So like those kind of things. So those kind of things you will enhance and improve when you wear like low stack shoes that aren't too soft. And apart from all the little scientific improvements that this shoe would potentially bring to you, I obviously just enjoy the ride and the softness that this shoe gives me. And obviously the most important thing, when do I use it? Well, like I said, long runs, whenever I feel fit and healthy. Also tempo workouts. I actually use this shoe, I think mostly for my tempo workouts. So like a workout like 8 times by 1K at threshold pace. So for me that's like 315, 325. Also for strides, if I, let's say, do strides a few days before my races and I do like 4 or 5 kilometers warm up and 4 or 5 kilometers cool down, and in between you do some strides, I love to use this shoe because that's pretty much what it's made for. Also, like I said, warm up and cool down in races, because in races, to activate your body before the race, I personally run a lot of variety in paces like warm up, race pace, some strides, some tempos. So I think that's just the perfect shoe for a warm up of a race. Thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. I certainly enjoyed making this video. And up until the next one, peace.